This is Zach.
This is Matthew.
This is Jamie.
This is Carson.
And this is Beyond the Stands.
So this Friday is a little different. How we still have games going on all across Northeast Tennessee and Virginia. But probably one of the most well-known and most important games today is the Carter County Clash for Compassion that takes place at ETSU. First game starting at 5, I think, between Happy Valley and Unaka, and then followed by Eagleton versus Hampton after. What do you have to say about Eagleton versus Hampton, just because we'll talk about our game later?
Eagleton-Hampton's a big game, really for the third place spot, who don't have to play York Institute, it looks like. And no one wants to play York because they're like a powerhouse. But I think this is also a big game for Hampton because if Hampton can beat Eagleton, it can show they can beat South Green next week. So I'm pulling for Hampton, and I think everyone else is. But Carson, what do you got to say about Hampton-Eagleton?
You mentioned this being a big conference game for Hampton and Eagleton. I think I could see Hampton just being out physicaling Eagleton, and I could see him winning tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we did Eagleton. It was just out physical. But I think Eagleton's going to take a better approach towards a power team like that. Jamie, what do you got to say about like the power approach that Eagleton has to take, like they didn't really take against us?
I think it'll be 50-50. I can't really decide who's going to win because Smash Mouth and Eagleton airs it out. Really depends on how Hampton's defense does with their quarterback, their receivers, that fast running back that they have. Just depends how their defense plays. I think it could be 50-50.
Yeah, I think like you saw earlier in the season with the Johnson County against Hampton, like whenever people air the ball out against Hampton, they do pretty good because Hampton don't see a lot of passing because of the A we're in. Like a lot of people just run the ball a ton. I mean, look at Cloudland, look at us. I mean, we run the ball a ton. And I think that's one reason Eagleton may have an upper hand is just being able to pass the ball like they do, like a 4A team kind of. The next game we're going to talk about is we'll go ahead and talk about Happy Valley and Unaka today. Murray, what do you got to say about Happy Valley Unaka?
Well, I think everyone's obviously knowing the outcome of this game, but I mean, I would like to say that with playing like other sports, I've kind of realized you can't just underestimate another team just because of their record or how they play. I just think in sports anything can happen. So I just feel like we have to go. I feel like we have to go out there, especially since there's gonna be coaches and players from ETSU. I feel like if we play Happy Valley football and just open a lot of eyes, maybe get more momentum going again. Our last one versus Cumberland Gap was a big win, but at the same time, it wasn't really a good team we played. So I think we need more momentum going in the playoffs, and especially playing West Green, which is another conference game next week. I also just want to start something before the playoffs. It's just like a momentum boost, I guess.
You mentioned Cumberland Gap. I think it should be the same type of game for us today. Have a running clock after halftime and just get out of there and be able to watch Hampton and Eagleton today. Carson, what do you got to say about us and Unaka?
Murray mentioned not overlooking their record. This bunch only have a 1 win, but they still got some, pretty athletic guys on their squad, and I think we just lock in for a half and we just get the clock. If we got a running clock going for the second half, I think we'll be all right. Just not trying to overlook this game too much, but we just gotta get ready for West Green next week. As we play on a Thursday, and so it's a short week next week. So we're just trying to get through this game pretty quickly, and then just get ready for next week.
Yeah, Unaka's got nothing to lose, as many would say, because they're knocked out of playoff contention. So really, they're just playing to play at this point. We could talk about Science Hill versus Daniel Boone this week. Murray, what do you think about Science Hill, Daniel Boone? I believe it's going to be a pretty big offensive shootout not shootout, but I think Science Hill's offense is really going to flash against Daniel Boone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like, and I said this in an earlier podcast, when a college team pays another team to play them just to make that record look better.
Tennessee Tech, Georgia.
Yeah, I kind of think that's what they're getting at here. I don't know if it's home or away for Science Hill, but I think either way, I think Science Hill is just going to – I don't even – like I said, I really don't even see them playing their starters, to be honest. Teams like that don't really play their starters.
Yeah.
I mean, like we'll play a team like that, and everyone will play like our starters till halftime. But teams like that, I mean,
yeah, Science Hill's got you don't turn around and play the other way for Science Hill.
They have about like 80 players they can work through. So I really see them being like an easy win for their second string here.
Yeah, talking about Science Hill, we can talk about Dobbins Bennett, Davy Crockett. big game next week for Science Hill Dobbins Bennett. It's being played at ETSU. It's the Maroon rivalry. Is that what that said?
Oh, Mayhem and Maroon.
Yeah, Mayhem and Maroon. It's really for the conference and who gets number one in the conference between Dobbins Bennett, Science Hill. That's where all of the podcasts will be next week, more than likely, is at ETSU watching Dobbins Bennett, Science Hill. Murray, talk about Davy Crockett.
Crockett, like I said, probably the biggest frauds in that part of the area. I mean, they beat Boone in the Musket Bowl, with that, which is a big win. And the Musket Bowl is really for like the school
And South Green.
My dad being one of the people that played in the Musket Bowl back in the '90s, late '90s, winning it 7 times in a row. That's a big thing for Crockett. But it's also really not big when you're beating every team in the area that you're supposed to beat, and then losing to every team that you're supposed to lose to. Crockett's kind of just like, I guess
mediocre.
I guess you could say like you just know how their season's gonna go because they always look really good at the start of the season, and then they play somebody that might be just a little better than them or even equal to them.
I mean, they got
just shut down.
The last 2 weeks. They've had about 100 points scored on them between Mo West and Tennessee.
Yeah, a 55 burger last year Friday, and I would Dobbins Bennett to honestly do the exact same thing. If Dobbins Bennett doesn't beat them by 40, then it's a win for them.
Yeah, Dobbins Bennett beat William Blount last week, 28-14. I mean, I think Dobbins Bennett's really going to use this to make sure none of their guys gets hurt, get second strings reps, and then get ready for Science Hill next week in the big game. What do you think about Dobbins Bennett, Davy Crockett, Carson?
David Crockett obviously having a rough season. It's not going to get much better as they play tonight.
I believe they're fighting for a playoff spot right now with Tennessee High to get 3rd and 4th, so they don't got to play number 1 in the next region, which I'm not sure who that would be.
But yeah, they're still fighting for playoffs, but I just don't see them picking up a win tonight against Dobbins Bennett.
This isn't a conference game either, so it isn't really like very big for Davy Crockett either. But this would help their overall record, but not really the conference record. And that's really what matters at the end of the day, as long as you have a decent record. We could talk about Northview, Greenville. It's a big game for Northview. If Northview loses this game and then loses to Sullivan East, I believe it is next week, then they're out of the playoffs. And as long as Volunteer wins, they move up in the playoffs. So Northview has to come out and beat Greenville, which is a very, very, very tough task at hand because Greenville's a very good football team. Greenville having a really big game against E-Town next week for the division, just like the Dobbins Bennett Science Hill game being played at Greenville. Also, Dry Griffith's revenge game. So, Murray, talk about that game. Northview, Greenville.
I think Northview has a great team, but I think it kind of all revolves around their quarterback. That's what you hear most.
He reminds me of Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, they don't really have the greatest defense, mediocre defense. But their backfield and their offense is really where their team comes from. I don't really know a lot about the guys up front, but I'm sure they're really good if the QB's having 3 or 4 seconds to throw the ball. Then, I mean, I think they have a chance, but you can't really expect a lot going against a team like Greenville.
Yeah. Carson, Northview, Greenville.
Yeah, Northview obviously having to lock in these next few weeks for playoff purposes, but there's really no shot against Greenville. Greenville's just proved all year that they just.
I mean, they played with an Alcoa team.
Played great with Alcoa, and just I don't think there's any signs of Greenville slowing down, especially towards playoffs. And Northview, I think they just need to look forward to the next couple of weeks to get ready for playoffs, just to make sure that they can go to the playoffs.
Speaking of Alcoa, our game of the week, Maryville versus Alcoa. Maryville has this series 67-26-3 versus Alcoa. Alcoa is moving up to 4A next year. That's very big for all 3A teams. I'd say they threw a statewide party. I think everybody here, Jamie, talking about Alcoa moving up from 3A to 4A. That's big for all 3A teams.
You go.
Okay.
Oh
But Alcoa has 16 titles, and they're going for 10 straight this year. Maryville. Alcoa has 22 titles. Maryville has 16 titles, state titles. I mean, you can see the dominance through 3A that Alcoa has had. So moving up to 4A, to see if they have the same dominance that they've always had. Carson, talk about that.
Well, if you're Gatlinburg, Pemmon, and Johnson County, I think you're throwing a huge party after
Yeah.
hearing that Alcoa is moving up, and I think they can compete with 4A teams just as great as they did with 3A teams.
I believe
honestly do. I think Alcoa has just proved year and year that they're just a dominant school and just they never slow down when it comes to any skill.
I think they showed they could compete with 4A teams when they beat Greenville, which, if I'm not wrong, I think Greenville's not even 4A. I think they're 5A.
No, they're 4A. They're 4A. Yeah.
Well, Greenville beating 5A and 6A teams every year. I think Alcoa might. I honestly have Alcoa winning state next year too. 4A. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Yeah, just going off what Murray said, Alcoa has just been very dominant ever since we was little, and just going through high school, Alcoa.
22 state title shows that.
Yeah, it's hard to just. I don't know. It's hard to beat
a team like that.
Like
and they have alumni that are in the NFL too and are in college. Like all these guys do very good out of Alcoa. And I believe, Carson, correct me if I'm wrong, but Elizabethton moved up from 3A to get away from Alcoa, and now they have to go against Alcoa again.
Yeah, and E-Town can't move down because of the number of kids at their school, so unfortunately they're stuck playing Alcoa.
And if they move up,
maybe not in regular season, but any playoffs, so they're bound to need them.
I know Coach Witten is shaking right now.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best news coming from E-Town if you have them play Alcoa next year.
Yeah.
I wonder how Alcoa's coach is looking at it though. Like, I don't know I wonder if he's looking at it like a good thing.
I think for them to really be challenged in like conference wise, I think they'd have to move up to like 5 or 6A for them to really, really be challenged. And that may be a hot take, but I think Alcoa is untouchable in anything 4 through 1A. If they was in 1A, I don't know how many state titles.
Honestly, depending on the teams, like I would definitely take them in 6A, 7A, depending on the team they go against.
Well, Maryville's in 6A, so you got to look at Maryville. But they play Maryville tonight.
If they beat Maryville tonight, then that's a big win for them because that's a preview next year.
No doubt winning state, and I believe if you have one lock, if you could bet your life on something, it'd be Alcoa winning state.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned how they always play it close with Maryville, and Maryville being a higher A than Alcoa. That's showing something. That's kind of like a subtitle foreshadowing of like next year. How they play against how they're going to move up to 4A. If they're competing well, is Maryville a 5A or 4A?
Yeah, Maryville's a 6A, I believe.
Yeah, they're having close series with a 6A.
It's
team.
Doubling their A. They have double the people. Is
so
what they're saying.
They're bound to just
Yeah, and now the games are meaningful against Greenville and people like that. Like those are like big games for them now. On from actually my prediction for that game, I think Alcoa is going to win this game by like a field goal. Because at that level that they play at, they have kickers. Like you see in 2A, 1A, no one really has a kicker that's so consistent. But you go up there to like Alcoa, Maryville, they have kickers who can hit it from like 40-plus yards. So I think it's going to come down to the wire, and I think that they're going to beat Maryville in this game.
Alcoa's got a lot going for them right now, but I just think Maryville picks up the win tonight.
And another reason I'm using it that I think Alcoa is going to win is Science Hill played close with Maryville. And yes, it's a really good Science Hill team, but still Science Hill played close with Maryville. So what's stopping Alcoa, I believe a better team than Science Hill, from getting to Maryville and beating them? What do you think about that, Murray?
Maryville's a great team. Honestly, I really hoped that Science Hill would beat them this year, but they still played a great game with them. But it'd just been awesome to see them win. But I think Maryville, honestly, probably just go with what they've done all year going forward against Alcoa. If there's one team that's scared of Alcoa, I'd say Maryville.
Yeah.
Maryville has just as many athletes as them. I think Maryville's going into this game just like they're playing any other team. So I think it'll just be a 4-quarter shootout all game.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this score.
Jamie, what's your prediction for the Alcoa Maryville game?
If I could, I'd flip a coin because I think they're about the same, like talent wise. The one's 6A, one's 3A. So obviously it's going to be good with Alcoa being dominant in 3A and Maryville being dominant in 6A. I can't really pick anyone, but I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to say Maryville.
So I'm the only one voting Alcoa, so we'll see next week if I have the upset. So I guess that's my upset.
I have Alcoa winning too.
You got Alcoa winning too?
I'm just saying,
okay.
I think it'll be a good game.
3-1-2, yeah. Earlier this week, Hampton played Unaka. I believe they won 58-18 or somewhere around that score. Hampton just having a dominant game against Unaka. That's what we hope to do tonight. And Hampton and us having similar run styles, I think we could just beat Yaneka just like Hampton did and have a running clock. And I mean, big win for Hampton. Hampton's getting the ball rolling. I believe they're on 3 straight now. Is that right?
Yep, got a lot of momentum building up for them. You know, you're going to need all of that when you go up against South Green for a big time conference game. So, just look at
that game is a big game we need to watch. Like, we have to watch. And if Hampton wins that game next week, that's so big for us because we move up to 1 and we get the lowest seed in Region 2A ball. The next game we'll talk about is Johnson County Holston. Holston being 6-1, they're a Virginia team, and Johnson County being 8-0.
Undefeated.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Johnson County's done locked down the division. So if Johnson County loses, I don't think it really matters much because they're 4-0 in conference play. All they got is Unicoi left. Losing Juan Magia, I mean, that's very, very big, but I still think that O-line can just get such a good push. Like, they're such a good O-line. I don't think it really matters who you lose on Johnson County. Like, running back wise, I think Jay Stout's still dangerous on the ground. They can still air the ball out, like, all of it. I just think, I mean, Holston being 6-1 is going to be a good matchup for JoCo, but even beating Gatlinburg Pittman after losing Juan Magia last week, Carson's talk on that.
Yeah, you mentioned how they lost Juan. I don't know how early they lost him, but
I believe it was in the first quarter, is what their center told me.
Yeah, losing your star running back in the first quarter and still playing consistent against a very good
very good team. Yeah,
Gatlinburg Pittman team. I think that shows that you got more skill than you know, and I just think that they'll pick up a win against Holston, and I think they're just getting ready for next week. Big conference game for Johnson County, looking to claim their 3A Region 1 championship. And I think they'll be just fine, even though they're without their star running back this game.
Yeah, I think they believe the same thing. We talked to their center, Nate Dorman. We play video games with him, and he is still very, very confident in JoCo and their abilities. Jamie talked on what, like he said, like how he's confident about JoCo going forward.
He kind of said that he believes that his line's still gonna make holes and stuff,
and he still has trust in the backup running back.
Yeah, they got a good backfield back there. Yeah, good quarterback.
Can run everywhere.
He can run. The speed option. I guess it could kind of take a little bit off the line with the end or whatever. You don't got to worry about him. And then once you get your guys up front blocked, it's speed option on the outside. So you don't. I just believe that they're still going to do well. I think they'll make a little run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I just think they're going to run into Alcoa, and that's what he believes too. Like, everybody knows in 3A, you got to run into Alcoa, but this is the last year, but unfortunately he's a senior, so he don't get to experience no Alcoa. So, really, it's more interesting with the Alcoa thing to see how it's going to open up 3A next year instead of what we're there in 4A. 3A is going to be wide open next year for championships. So, the next game we're going to talk about is Granger South Green. Granger not being a great team, they're a 4A team. We're South Green being a 2A team. I mean, it'd be a win. It'd be a big win for us if Granger beat South Green. But I just think South Green's way on a roll right now, way too fat. Like, no one can really stop them, and that's why we hope Hampton can make the stop. Go ahead and talk about that, Carson.
Yeah, I think South Green on a dominant streak right now. I think with a big conference win against Happy Valley and Eagleton. I think they'll not going to slow down anytime soon. I think Granger should be no problem for them. Especially playing at home.
Yeah, Granger was no problem for like Elizabeth and teams like that. Now I don't think South Green could really compete with Elizabeth. I think the game would be a 2 or 3 score game, but still I don't think Granger's really going to play good enough to play this good of a South Green team. I don't think they're going to play physical enough. Of course, Murray, talk about the physicality South Green brings against Granger.
South Green is a very physical team. Their offensive line playing
big
after playing them, I realized their offensive line is honestly a lot of their team.
Yeah,
they're
and it showed whenever the backup running back came in, and he's still doing just as good as Nash Rader was.
Yeah, South Green is. If there's one way to beat them, you just have to out physical.
Yeah. And I just don't think Granger being in 4A ball, a lot of passing in that. I believe we went and watched them. They run Wildcat, I believe, a lot.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's going to work against South Green. I think South Green's just going to play downhill. I mean, they played a running team like us with Wildcat, and they still beat us. I mean, it was a close game between us, but I mean, we're hoping for a Granger win. I think South Green's got it though. We can also talk about the other West team, the other Greene County team, West Greene against Sullivan East. I think this will actually be kind of an even matchup. I don't know about you guys, but I think this is an even matchup. We got West Greene next week on Halloween night, Thursday. So we're hoping to win that, and then we get conference. We lock down conference, at least a home playoff game if we beat them next week. And if Hampton pulls off the win, then we can get first place. But talk about West Greene, Sullivan East, Jamie.
What A is Sullivan East? I think they're like 4A, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 4A. They're with Elizabeth and Volunteer Northview.
That conference. Yeah. I think Sullivan East will win. I think they'll get a big win over West Greene. West Greene's
it'll be their first win.
Yeah, I think they'll get their first win. West Greene's
passing defense, I don't think it's gonna be able to stand with a Sullivan East, because Sullivan East, I believe their receivers leading the region in receiving yards. Or he was a few weeks ago. And West Greene, you saw whenever they played a passing team such as Eagleton, that they had troubles. And I think Sullivan East can do something.
I think so. Yeah, I think Sullivan East will win. West Greene, like the two division difference. I think Sullivan East will win. I think West Greene's just gonna have one of their bad games, like they're 50-50.
Yeah, it's a heads or tails with West Greene. I mean, they have a very good player, number 2. Not sure of his name, but he's very, very good. Carson, do you want to talk about West Greene, or do you want to talk about Westridge in Tennessee High?
I guess just a small thing about West Greene, then I'll move on to Westridge in Tennessee. West Greene, despite having a bad record, Jarrett always mentioned that they're better than what their record shows, and I just think that they can really go into Sullivan East with a great chance of, pulling off a win or not before a big conference game for them as well next week.
Yeah. And
just talking about Westridge in Tennessee, Westridge
pretty even game, I believe.
Pretty even game. I think some would say Westridge was expected to have
a lot better,
a good year, but it just hasn't been their way this year, and I think Tennessee High just pulls off a win.
Yeah, and talking about Westridge, we can go on to games from last week. Westridge played West Greene last week and beat them 58-0. I mean, an easy win for Westridge. It's like a 4A difference. Murray, do you want to talk about Westridge?
I still, to this day, have no clue how that game came upon of actually being played. I don't know what had that authorized to be played, but that's like just taking Happy Valley and putting us just up
against Maryville or something like that.
Like, I mean, that's just basically be like, all right, you boys are gonna go play 7A Friday. Like, I don't know what they expected out of West Greene that game.
Yeah. I personally believe it's because they were eliminated from the playoffs.
I mean, being West Greene's coach, I don't even know how I would like plan that Friday. Like,
I would like to see the faces of the West Greene players whenever they got told they're playing Westridge. I think the day of.
Well, I think, obviously some teams had to cancel some games due to like the hurricane and all that. So I think they're just.
I think they're getting as many games in for their seniors.
Yeah, just getting as many games in
because they're eliminated from playoffs.
Yeah.
Them and Cumberland Gap, I believe, are eliminated from playoffs. So, I mean, just getting your seniors as many games as they can before, they never really get to play football again. So, it's understandable. I'd want Coach Jarrett to do the same exact thing for us if we was on the losing side right now.
Maybe not against 3A's bigger than us.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I mean, maybe if we could just, pick up, like JoCo or something, just have a fun game. But, Westridge, I mean, we get to play in a nice facility.
You're just asking to lose.
Yeah, I mean. Talking about another game last week, a very, very, very big game, Cosby and Cloudland. This was Carson's game of the week.
It was.
Talk about it, Carson.
I said last week that Cosby's really shown improvement this year.
7-1.
8-1 now.
Oh, 8-1?
Yeah.
And they play Northview, I think it is the night. Or it may be next week I'm thinking of. But anyways, back to Cosby Cloudland.
Yeah. Fun fact, that win against Cloudland ruined Cloudland's 35-game win streak against region opponents in 1A.
Yeah.
So big win for Cosby as they, just to continue to have a great season. I think that team that they're playing is Claiborne.
No, I'm pretty sure they're playing Northview, but I'll have to check that. Landon Barnett had a big game, and Grayson Cole, both for the Landers, had a big game. Both of them putting together about 300 yards and on 33 carries. So but Cosby just had the passing attack with Wigfall having 4 catches for 150 yards, and they still having a good ground game. But I think it was defense for Cosby really helped beat a Cloudland team that takes so much time off the clock. So like turning the ball over quick really helps against a Cloudland team like that. Murray, what do you got to say about that? Because like, turning the ball over against us is big because we hold the ball forever. So
I think Cloudland is a team that's overlooked a lot. I don't think anyone really thinks they're like good or just have a good team. But the way I look at it, I think Cloudland still has a lot of good athletes. I mean, I think they're a football team.
Yeah.
I don't think they're terrible. I don't think they still have. I don't know if they should still be in playoffs. I think.
They are. They got a game against North Green tonight, I believe. No, it's against RS Central, and then North Green next week for a big conference game.
So honestly, I just don't think this is a game Cloudland needs to be too worried about. I think they just have to move, even though it is late in the season and these are the games you want to win, with playoffs being so close, you don't really need to focus on losses.
You just gotta put it past you. Whatever happened.
Yeah, and you really just have to play football, and this is the time to start.
Yeah, speaking of 1A ball, we could talk about Yaneka and North Green. North Green beat Yaneka 44-6. Knocked Yaneka out of the playoff. Yaneka probably going to try to schedule as many games as they can. We also didn't talk about Unicoi. We're talking about 1A ball. We didn't talk about Unicoi, but Unicoi's playing Hancock Monday night. Murray, tell me about Hancock versus Unicoi. What do you think that score is going to be?
I'm looking and this is me just being truthful. I mean, I love Hancock playing them. They have great sportsmanship. They like I said last podcast, they just play football.
Yeah, their field was iffy though.
Win or lose, they just play. I know, but the boys just play football. They don't care if they win or lose. They playing against them. They're down 40, but they're laughing and they're just playing football. Yeah, and I respect that about them. They just want to play football. And I think I really lost a lot of respect for Unicoi just scheduling them, because Unicoi knowing they can schedule anybody else or even play their game with us still, finish our game, but they schedule Hancock, and I think it's for a reason. I think they're just looking to have an easy win. Just to show
the big win, and look for the points against points.
Yeah, I really lost a lot of respect for Coach Rice because of that, and I don't really see how their players are fine with it. Because I played on Unicoi, I think I would rather be playing a team that would actually
make us better.
Yeah, but I hope Hancock goes in there and just plays football. I know it's not really.
If Hancock upset them, that may be the biggest upset in Tennessee history. Serious.
If there was a representation of stat chasing,
that would
you would bring up Unicoi versus Hancock. Yeah. I just don't think it's really necessary to play a game like this before a big conference game.
And it's not even like it's a worse 3A team. They're 2A's down. They have 15 players, and Unicoi having 60 players. They know what they're trying to do here.
Yeah,
and I know how there's zero chance for Hancock to win, no chance at all. If Hancock won, I might be the happiest person on this earth.
Yeah, I don't know. Unicoi definitely having, I think, a whole lot more options to play other than Hancock. But
like I said, they could have, they were affected by the hurricane. They could have came and played we could have played them at ETSU today. We could have played Unicoi at ETSU. Yeah. That would have been a great game, but no, they did not want to play in the clash.
As much as we talk about how they shouldn't be playing Hancock or how they should be playing someone better, at the end of the day, you just got to think it don't make them any better playing a team like Hancock.
Yeah,
I just think if you want to go ahead and play games like that, then sure, go ahead. But you definitely need to see what you need to improve on before you play Joko, who's looking to win.
I do hope Unicoi more looks at this as like a JV game approach, and they put in their backups, let their backups get ready for the next year and the future ahead. If they keep their dudes out there after scoring 20-plus points, I just I don't.
And you can
it is Unicoi, so I see them playing their starters all game. It's Unicoi. They're there just to make the scoreboard look pretty.
Yeah. I guess just to back off what Murray said, I could see him leaving Colby in. Maybe 3.5, maybe 4 quarters.
Yeah, to get the best 4A.
Chase. Yeah. It's unnecessary, but it's whatever. We can't control what they do, so it's just whatever they want to do. But obviously, a whole lot more options. That could, mention that how we could still play them. But I don't know. It's just whatever.
Yeah. We can talk. Moving on from that game. That game's controversial for us, I guess. Elizabeth and Volunteer last week. E-Town won 42-0. Slagle went 13 for 20 with 170 yards passing. Jay Birdwallen having a big game on the ground, 73 yards on 8 carries. I mean, they was out of the game quick, obviously, 42-0 score. That's a quick game for them. A similar game was us, Cumberland Gap against Cumberland Gap, 45-0. We had Lane had 2 touchdowns. Norman had a touchdown. Artie had a pick 6. Tyler Bailey had a pick 6. Ty Berry had 1 rushing touchdown, and Gabe had a rushing touchdown. I mean, we was having an offensive, just a big game offensively, but we didn't keep our starters in the whole game. We took them out right after halftime. We took them out.
Yeah, I was gonna say the last snap I technically took, I think was literally late. No, I think it was
like the middle of the third.
I'm pretty sure when I looked at the scoreboard and I did not play another snap, I think there's like 7 minutes left in the third.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, our coaches want to show class. We ain't gonna go beat a team 80-0. Even though I believe we could score that many points against certain teams,
there's just no need to do.
But
that.
But the big difference is
if you noticed in the second half though, we started passing more, and we don't pass a lot. It's working on our passing game. So it's good for us going against the where we could pass a little bit.
But what's also a factor is the fact that we only have like 20-something players. So some of the positions we can't even have a sub for.
And we had hurt and we had injuries too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But with a team like Unicoi having 70 players and them still not subbing, that's just.
Yeah. We can talk about that all we want to, but
yeah, about another.
They don't really care what we think, but
yeah, talking about another conference game, Eagleton South Green last week. South Green gets this win 28-20. I mean, it was big for us. We needed Eagleton to win, but that's why I was saying Hampton beats Eagleton, and that shows they can beat South Green. Eagleton only being within 8. I'm not sure if there was any controversial calls or what happened, but I mean, South Green gets another conference win against the team that a lot of people was, looking at a matchup where Eagleton could pass a ton and South Green maybe not be able to keep up with it. But unfortunately, Nate Clemens and Eagleton could not get it done against South Green. And we talked about North Green knocking Yannick out of the playoffs last week. Unicoi beat Claiborne 42-13. They had the hurricane relief people walk out with them, and that was big. That was that was good for the community up in Unicoi. Of course, Colby had a big game. Tennessee High beat Cocke County 48-6. Tennessee High, this is big for the playoffs. They just need to keep rolling and try to get over Crockett, which I think their win over Crockett would help them get in the playoffs either way. I'm interested for the playoffs episode soon. A big game last week. We talked about Johnson County, Gatlinburg Pittman. Johnson County beating them 14-7, low scoring game, but without Juan Mejia, I bet they tried to take as much time as they could off the clock and just win.
Speaking of Johnson County, after talking to some of their players, it looks like they're having number 7, so as starting back for them.
Yeah,
which I don't really know a lot about Johnson County, so I don't even know his last name. But just looking at some pictures of him, the kid just looks like he looks like he could probably.
Yeah, he looks like everybody on Johnson County looks big. We talked to Nate about their routine, and their routine similar to ours, and that's why they're super strong up front and just super strong around. Like they're committed this year into just being as good as they could possibly be this year. Next year, probably with more confidence going in because there's no Alcoa. So now you can really make a deep run in the playoffs and it not be a problem. But now we're going to move on to our college segment. Carson, lead us in this college segment as you tell us about this Saturday's games.
We're playing at ETSU, and speaking of ETSU, they're coming off a bye week, and as they travel to Wofford.
They haven't won at Wofford in I think it was 27 years or something like that. They haven't won at Wofford.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard because Wofford coming off a 37-5 loss to Chattanooga. They're looking to obviously bounce back against
So this
ETSU.
should be a pretty evenish game.
Should be evenish game. ETSU last win against Sanford and a comeback win. And, we'll just have to see what happens there. And VMI goes to Chattanooga as Chattanooga looks to continue its SoCon winning streak as they destroyed Wofford last week.
What is Chattanooga's name? What are they? The Chattanooga what's?
The Mocs.
Mocs. Oh, okay.
I
never knew that.
If you can tell me what a mock is, then I'll give you $20.
I have no idea.
Football team.
Yeah.
Washington football team type thing.
Yeah. As they go up against Virginia Military Institute, as they lost to the Citadel last week.
So Carson, do you know if VMI is like Army and Navy, where like if you're going to the Army, you can't go to the NFL, like where you like Murray, you're going to the Marines. You swore in, so if you swore in, you can't go to the NFL until after you do your certain amount of time.
So with college teams like that, like military schools, like Army and stuff, after your 4 years is over, they give you an option to either play in the NFL or to go through with the service. But most of them
are so out of football shape.
Yeah,
I mean, they're in shape, but they're just not ready for football.
But a lot of them, even having the option to go to the NFL, still choose the military just because of the fact that that was one of their biggest things, especially going to school like that.
I don't think they accept transfers either. Like any college, college players looking to transfer, I don't think they accept transfers because they're a military institute.
No, West Point, and schools like that, you can't. You have to get accepted in.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, can VMI can go to the NFL? It's not like Army and Navy. I mean, Army and Navy can go to the NFL, but you can like still go without having to like.
But I'm sure if you go to VMI, then you're mainly just going for the military part, not really like the college part.
Yeah. I mean, it's more just you get to play football for a little while you get ready to serve your nation, and of course we thank everyone who serves our nation. So
one more local game is Middle Tennessee. Parker Hughes being an Elizabethton native, as they travel to Jacksonville State. Middle Tennessee hasn't had a really great year. They actually, I think, almost lost to Tennessee Tech.
Whew.
Yeah, it's kind of low, especially for a first-year new head coach.
Yeah.
But moving on to the big games this week, we got quite a few here. Number 12, Notre Dame goes to Navy as their 11.5-point favorites. Navy being ranked
24th, I believe.
24th, yeah.
And I believe Army's 22.
Yeah, both Army and Navy are ranked, so it's a good year for America in football. And I would look for Notre Dame to win this one, sadly. But moving on, we got Illinois, who just beat the reigning national champions, Michigan, at home. They go to Eugene, Oregon, to verse
Oregon.
Now number 1 ranked Oregon. Oregon has a 92% chance to win this game. They're 22-point favorites.
I think if Illinois wears those same helmet jersey combos, they could play like they're in the 40s, run some flex bones, some power eye, and teach Oregon a lesson and keep Dylan Gabriel off the field. It's not going to happen. But I'm just imagining. But back to Navy. It's Murray could talk on this a little bit more. It's so impressive what Army and Navy's doing this year. With them having people who's only going to the Army, they can't accept transfers. Like these dudes have to go there to go to the Army. So getting no like 5-star transfers and 5 stars going there. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's impressive, Murray.
Yeah, it's just but they also train a bit different.
Yeah.
So, their coaches actually being retired Army and stuff. I wouldn't even want to know that those guys have to go through the weight room. Looking at their quarterback and some of their team, you can just tell they're in the weight room.
Which
I love the pictures whenever they score, like their Army pictures and stuff. It's so cool.
I've seen on CBS where like their schedule, like throughout the day, like a day in the life, I guess so to speak.
It's Army training. You're playing football for fun.
Football there is more on the side.
Yeah,
it's not a main thing.
And you're getting it's going there. You get room inspections.
Mm-hmm.
You have to reach a certain criteria in the weight room, because they can tell if you're skipping workouts or not. They have a coach everywhere in the weight room. It's a different breed to play.
So for both them teams to be doing that, so impressive to me.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I hope like Army sneaks. I know they're only like 20 something right now, but I hope they watch them sneak in the playoffs.
What division are they in? Just American?
Yeah, they just moved into the American Conference this year. Actually, they were independent.
Honestly, I hope to see them sneak into the playoffs.
We could see.
You have to be
potential
top 12.
Yeah.
It's
playoff format.
Yeah.
You could definitely see teams. I think we could see Army versus Navy 3 times.
Army Navy is number 1, number 2 in the conference right now, and that's kind of by a large margin for Army 6-0 in conference and Navy's 4-0 in conference. I mean, this Army Navy game could be very big. This could be to go to the playoffs this year,
Which I think
just so impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like I mentioned, they could verse 3 times.
Yes.
You got the traditional Army-Navy game. You got the conference championship with Army being new in the American Athletic Conference. And, potentially the playoffs. This is like an insane year for college football.
Honestly, a game I want to see more than that, though, is the Army Air Force game. That's always, you get a trophy for winning.
Yeah.
And the Army and Air Force, like military-wise, the Air Force branches off the Army. Like
yeah,
they
why
branch
do
off each
our
other's
branches have like beef with each other, kind of?
side.
Or is it just because of college football?
I think
I don't think they really have beef. It's
I
just
think
like,
it's just branchers.
Yeah, Air Force 1-6, 0-4 in their conference. UNLV leading over Boise State impressively. Didn't UNLV beat Boise earlier this year, right? I believe so.
No,
it was
no,
early.
I
No,
don't think they
Boise's
did.
they only lost to Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Boise, yeah.
I thought they beat him. I swear I saw a TikTok about it.
Well, I guess moving on, we got Jamie. I'm sure is good.
Oh no, that's today.
What?
UNLV Boise is
yeah.
today, and that's for number 1 in the conference.
They play at 10:30. I think I saw that. Right?
Yeah, I don't know why Boise has to play midnight every game.
It's
I never can watch Ashton Genty because I ain't up for it.
It's the Mountain West. It's very confusing. It's like the Pac-12 after dark. But speaking of Pac-12,
After
Boise
dark.
State making a move to the Pac-12 after this year.
Which is insane.
Insane. Insane rebuild for the Pac-12 as everyone
And
left.
Let's
So-
go ahead and get it out of the way talking about our Heisman watch.
Heisman watch. I think definitely after
I-
last week.
I've heard some good points about Travis Hunter, and like Travis Hunter's like a lot of people say best player on the field, both sides of the ball whenever he's out there. But we're seeing a historic year from Ashton Genty. So really, Jamie, chime in on this. I don't know who to really pick because Travis Hunter's doing things we've never saw, and Ashton Genty could do things we never saw, and he's doing things we haven't saw in 40+ years.
I think Genty should win. Travis Hunter did make some good points, but when you,
I think it's just going to come down to voting.
Yeah. Travis Hunter missing 3 games now. So
Yeah, that could
the best
ruin-
ability is availability.
Exactly. And Ashton Genty, I mean, he literally carries the Boise State offense. Like, he is the Boise State offense. And that's why they can't really compete in bigger games. Well, they did compete against Oregon, but, like, they just don't got that push, like, because they don't got a passing game, really. They just have Genty. They hand him the ball a million times a game. Not really, though. They do take him out a lot, like, at halftime because they're beating teams because of Genty.
Yeah, I mean, Jensen's just looking.
I just, whenever
the
you
overall
average,
favorite right
whenever you
now.
average a first down a carry,
Mhm.
that's so impressive. Because, I mean, what? You tell me as a coach you wouldn't turn around and hand Genty the ball for 10 yards? I would. I know I would. So,
Yeah, Genty looking like the overall favorite as of right now. But I guess that's
impressive to see no, sorry to interrupt you, impressive to see no quarterbacks really, like, in the top. I know Jalen Milroe had a case and
Cam
then
Ward.
Cam
Cam
Ward's
Ward
up
is
there.
definitely
Yeah.
shown that he's worth. Yeah.
celebration.
But I guess just to finish up our college game days of the week, we got Missouri as they go to Alabama. Alabama, tough loss
Lost
against
Tennessee.
Tennessee. I'm
Yes,
sure.
sir.
Yeah.
Jamie was right.
Jamie was right, unfortunately. But Alabama's still 14-point favorites after loss to Tennessee.
I just
After they
think-
play at home.
I think people are seeing the name Alabama and still giving them all this credit. But I think people are starting to miss Saban. And I don't even think it's all, what is his name? I don't
Get on the board.
Yeah, I don't think it's his fault. Jalen Milroe, that was such a questionable pass. He had so
Yeah.
many questionable passes against Tennessee. I watched the whole game. Nico not looking good on deep balls either. I
He,
mean,
looked,
missed,
he was good in the. He
he was
doing-
good everywhere else.
He wasn't good on deep balls in the first half, and then the second half he comes out with.
He hit it when it mattered, as Coach Jarrett said. He
Yeah.
hit it when it mattered, but he still could have had like 7 passing touchdowns. Squirrel could have had like 3 or 4 touchdowns if he just hits them on the deep balls, but he overthrew them by just barely. So if he can, I mean, only being a freshman, it's just showing his potential. But Jalen Milroe, he's a senior or a junior, right?
He's a senior.
Yeah, he's a senior. I mean, I don't know what he saw really on that final play. I mean, that safety came down and I just don't think it was a good pass from Jalen Milroe, and he's just looked questionable the last few weeks. And
Yeah.
you, as an Alabama fan, could probably back me up on that because you're probably sitting at home pulling your hair out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a struggle to watch Alabama. You know, you mentioned, if you would have told me that Alabama would be sent with 2 losses early in the season.
And 15th.
And
And looking
15th.
at not even being in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me. But, my brother-in-law mentioned Alabama don't really have that dominance to their name like they used to in the past.
I
Like, you
think
know
it's
what I'm
because
saying?
Saban left.
They're so even with like Saban's last 2 years, they're so even with every other Power 5 team.
Tennessee's starting to make their run up to the top of the SEC, but
Right.
Kirby Smart's got to pass a die or something for
Yeah.
Tennessee to really take
Yeah.
the realm because Kirby Smart is just taking and talk about Georgia Texas last week. I thought Texas was the number 1 overall team. No one could beat them. I thought they was just gonna go into no, it was in Texas
At Texas.
and beat them by like 2-3 scores. No, they go out and they lay an egg the first half, and then they try to make a comeback. It just don't happen.
Yeah.
Against the Georgia team,
I'm sure Murray can talk on it because him being a Georgia fan. And
Georgia's gonna beat Tennessee. I think that's what matters most out of everything. I think Georgia will still win the national championship this year.
Yeah, I mean Tennessee having a really easy game this week. Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State is just not that good. I don't think it's gonna be a good game.
I'd rather watch paint dry than watch Mississippi State play. But that's
especially against Tennessee.
I think we would also watch paint dry watching Alabama play anymore. I don't think. I think. What do you think about Alabama missing the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I mean they ain't completely out, but like
too early to decide.
Yeah,
for me. But we got
They won't win it. They won't win another game this year.
As a Tennessee fan, Jamie, how excited are you for Georgia in 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I think Villager Tech has a better chance to beat Alabama than Alabama going to the playoffs.
I think you're right. I think
Villager Tech's a pretty strong team.
Pretty
that's
strong.
a whole nother league.
Other league.
Anyways, Jamie,
that's the MCA.
Georgia playing Tennessee soon in like 2-3 weeks. How big of a game as a Tennessee fan is that for you?
Georgia's going down.
Okay, that's all you got to say.
He has
I don't want to get into a heated argument like last time.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen this year in college football. I have no idea. I have no idea. Like Vandy's in the top 25.
Yeah. Speaking of that, they host number 5 Texas.
Vanderbilt.
First time being ranked since 2008.
I thought it was 2013.
No, they wasn't ranked. But
Texas has a 90% chance to win.
I don't care.
That's my upset pick. Give me Vanderbilt.
That means there's still a 10% chance that Vanderbilt will
wins
beat Texas.
Yeah. What is their quarterback's name? I don't know.
He's doing really good this year.
Well, there was an 8% chance they beat Alabama, and look where we're at now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Alabama's pretty bad though. They ain't Georgia.
And yeah, Texas is too. After that, after we had Tim and Carson Beck, throw for 300 yards, they used to say
no. And I guess move on to what I believe is the college game of the week. If just number 8 LSU versus number 14 Texas A&M.
Isn't LSU's running back a freshman? Like he's going crazy, yeah. And
this is
Garrett Nuckenmeyer or something like that.
Nuckenmeyer.
This is LSU's first challenge on the road.
And Texas A&M, ain't they like the hardest stadium to play in? Like, ain't they the 12th man?
Yeah.
The one that never shuts
Texas
up?
A&M with a 53% chance to win. And they're 3-point favorites against LSU. Fun fact about both these teams, if you look at the top of the SEC, they're both number 1 and number 2. They're both undefeated in SEC play. Texas A&M wearing their all-black uniforms, so they obviously have some confidence going into this game. And LSU wearing their all-white uniforms.
Yeah. I mean, SEC's up for grabs, and that ain't been said in years.
Yeah.
The SEC's up for grabs, and anybody can win it right now.
So I guess
it's usually either been, it's Georgia or it's Bama. But Georgia losing to Bama, and then Bama losing to Tennessee and Vandy, and Tennessee losing to Arkansas. I don't know who's number 1 in the nation. I can't say Oregon's number 1 in the nation because they play close with Idaho. And, I mean, they barely – they beat Ohio State. That was a big win, and I thought Ohio State was number 1, but I don't know who's number 1. I can't tell. It's such a toss-up right now.
I guess
honestly, I'm looking at Georgia. I think would be the number 1 team right now after beating Texas. I'm not saying that just because I'm a Georgia fan. If I had to pick a number 1 right now, and I say this with full confidence, even though I'm a Georgia fan, I would love to see Army number 1. But Georgia did beat number 1 Texas. I think they should be number 1.
I think Georgia should be a number 1 team, even though
I think
Oregon's
Georgia's
going
to lose in the playoffs to like the 12-team playoffs. I feel like it's going to give us an exciting first round. Big teams are going to go down. They're going to drop off like flies. I know that's what happens in all my simulations in NCAA. So I'm expecting the same exact thing in real life since I made it sim realistic.
Realistically, I'm looking for Ohio State, Georgia, or Tennessee.
Speaking of that, why did O.J. Howard go down? Is that his name, O.J. Howard, the quarterback?
Where's that state?
Ohio State. Oh, they're like top 25 worst teams.
Will Howard? Is it Will Howard?
Will Howard. Yeah, O.J. Howard's a tight end. My bad. Will Howard, he went down with no time on the clock.
Yeah, you don't really expect that. This game, obviously, being 2 weeks ago, I think, you would just because he started 3 years at Kansas State, then transfers to Ohio State. You would just think their decision making would come from Will Howard. But
Also, real quick, talk about Pitt's defense last night. 3 pick
three
sixes.
pick sixes in the first half agast
A really good quarterback.
Yeah,
Too.
Will
Kyle Howard. Oh, Will Howard.
Kyle McCord.
Kyle McCord. Oh my
That's
God,
his name. Sorry.
we're off today.
We're butchering it today. I'm sorry.
And Kennesaw getting their first win.
Kennesaw
First
against
yeah!
FBS win against ranked Liberty.
Ranked. This is all not ranked Liberty, but I believe Liberty was ranked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Liberty was ranked.
They were ranked.
They were
And
Yeah.
then they lost to Kennesaw State, and now they're not ranked anymore.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
Kennesaw State. Jamie rebuilt Kennesaw State on NCAA
It's a-
25.
I lost to Georgia in the
I'm
National
college
College
football
actually
by 1 point.
I'm actually rebuilding Kennesaw State right now with my quarterback.
I'm also on Road to Glory, the quarterback for Kennesaw State right now.
I am too. I swear, Kennesaw
Yeah,
State.
Kennesaw State being the very popular pick for rebuilding in college football 25. But I guess just to sum up the college portion of this podcast, the big game being LSU and Texas A&M. I guess we'll go around and pick who we want to win in this game, as the winner
I got LSU.
clearly decides who goes to the SEC championship.
I got LSU.
Okay, Jamie, who do you
I
got?
like their quarterback.
I got LSU.
Murray, who do you got?
I think I want to say I got Texas A&M. I got Texas A&M.
Speaking of
I think
another,
I got Texas A&M.
speaking of another team, we need to see if they are going to lose. BYU.
BYU.
Hey, isn't college game day going to Washington? I mean Indiana for Washington, Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana being 7-0. After haven't been like this since Michael Penix was at Indiana before he transferred to Washington.
Yeah.
So this is I guess if you're Michael Penix, just enjoy both sides, whoever plays.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm interested in seeing
Do they play-
BYU and Indiana.
do I see that right? They play at midnight.
No, they play at noon.
Oh,
Yeah, they play at noon. No, that would be like a Boise State thing, like
that'd
play
be
at
the Pac-12
midnight.
after dark.
Yeah. I mean, Rutgers and South USC play.
Rutgers
at
and
11.
USC, they do play at midnight. Holy crap!
Is USC not ranked?
They're not ranked.
no, they got beat last week.
They got
Was it
beat
last?
against Minnesota, and they just haven't been the same since.
Yeah.
Oh god.
I mean, this week isn't as big as a week as coming weeks, but I mean, Ohio and Penn State play next week. That's a
And
big.
scratch
that's
Tennessee
probably the
don't
money.
play Mississippi State. Tennessee's actually on the bye week this week. They play Kentucky next week.
I think, which is actually I think a rivalry. I think Kentucky and Tennessee is a rivalry.
Yeah.
But I'm
You don't
very,
know what Kentucky team's going to show up.
I am very excited to watch Penn State versus Ohio State. That's a great
An
game.
underrated good team too is South Carolina. Like they play good with all high teams.
Destroying Oklahoma last week.
SEC matchup this week: Ole Miss, Oklahoma.
Ole Miss, Oklahoma.
Ole Miss. I thought that was my number one team in the nation at the start of the year. No, Ole Miss.
I just don't think
They just dropped. They just ain't performing like they
I
should.
don't think Lane Kiffin, just as a coach, is really that big and
Yeah,
in the big games. I don't think he's.
I mean,
there.
and the quarterback. I was expecting Jackson Dart to be the Heisman front runner,
yeah.
and just no.
Isn't SMU? I heard SMU didn't have a football team for a minute, and now
Back in 2008, their program had to get suspended due to recruitment violations, obviously. And then
Now they're ranked.
They're in the ACC. They made a move to Power 5 conference this year, along with Stanford and California. California and Stanford being Pacific Coast teams, and they're playing the Atlantic Coast conference and all that. So SMU's actually performed solid. I think they're undefeated in
Oop.
conference play.
Michigan State at Michigan this week.
They're both unranked. It don't matter.
Well, yeah, but
Michigan State at Michigan.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the
Yeah.
high school, the East?
No.
Or
no.
Michigan?
We're
we're
talking
talking
about Michigan State, Michigan.
State University.
It's a rivalry,
Spartans.
though. What is do you know the name of
That's-
the rivalry or no?
I don't know, but it don't seem to be relevant this year.
I heard it's,
Michigan
Battle
is
of
not
Michigan.
ranked.
That's so bad for me. They're going to the national championship last year.
You would think that they would be at least solid.
Showing Jim Harbaugh was literally the heart of that
Key
team.
Yeah,
factor
and
for that
JJ
team.
McCarthy also did up a lot.
Yeah,
Cheeseheads.
he showed off in the NFL before he tore his meniscus. But that will be the end of this week's episode of Beyond the Stands.